All right, let's jump right in. We're about to unpack a huge economic story that honestly is flying completely under the radar, and that's the trade relationship between Brazil and Bangladesh. You got these two giants on opposite sides of the world, and what's happening between them is a legit, untapped gold mine of opportunity. Let's kick things off with the one number that really defines this entire story. Okay, just look at this number, $2.51 billion. So, what is that? Well, that is the trade deficit that Bangladesh had with Brazil in just a single fiscal year, 2023-2024. It is a staggering figure, and it's right at the heart of everything we're going to talk about. So, what on earth is going on here? And this chart, wow, it puts that number into perspective. I mean, look at those two bars. On one side, you've got Bangladesh's exports to Brazil sitting at about $156 million. And on the other, Brazil's exports to Bangladesh, over $2.6 billion. Now, your first reaction might be to see this as a huge problem, right? But that's not the right way to look at it at all. See, this imbalance isn't a sign of failure. It's actually a map, and it's pointing us directly to an enormous well of potential. So first up, let's break down exactly why this gap even exists. Because this isn't some accident. It's a direct reflection of how these two economies are fundamentally designed. And that brings us to the real core of this story. Because what looks like a crazy mismatch on paper is actually a perfect match. The very reason this huge trade gap exists is what makes the whole relationship so incredibly powerful. These two economies, they're perfectly complementary. What's so cool about this is how it lays out the puzzle pieces. On one side, you've got Bangladesh, right? A global powerhouse in making clothes, in labor-intensive manufacturing. And on the other side, you have Brazil, an agro-industrial giant, a resource powerhouse. Think about it. Bangladesh makes the clothes, Brazil grows the cotton and the food. They don't compete with each other. They complete each other's supply chains. Okay, so let's get specific. Let's actually map out this gold mine. We're going to look at what's really being traded back and forth, and we'll see where the biggest opportunities are basically hiding in plain sight. So as you'd probably guess, Bangladesh's top exports to Brazil are a total showcase of its manufacturing muscle. Apparel is king. We're talking almost $23 million in men's cotton trousers alone. Then you've got jerseys, shirts, t-shirts. This proves they've already got a solid foothold in the Brazilian market for the thing they do best. Now, let's look at the flip side. And the scale here is just immense. Brazil is sending over $757 million of raw sugar, $604 million of raw cotton, hundreds of millions in soy products. So here's the kicker. Brazil is literally supplying the raw materials, like that cotton, that fuels the exact same apparel industry we just saw on the last slide. It's a perfect economic loop. But of course, if it were that easy, that trade gap would already be shrinking. There's a reason we're calling it an untapped gold mine. There are real-world barriers you have to get through. It's kind of like a trade maze that businesses have to solve. So here are the main walls inside that maze. You've got Brazil's average tariff of around 12%, which is a pretty big cost. Then, both countries have complex health and safety regulations you've got to meet. Add to that mandatory standards, the sheer logistical headache of the distance involved, and even things like trade remedies, like anti-dumping actions, that can just stop a product cold. These are the real hurdles that smart exporters need to be planning for from day one. Which, of course, leads to the big question. With all this potential, but also all these challenges, what's the actual playbook for success? How do you really win in this market? And now we get to the solution. In this final section, we are laying out the winning playbook, clear, actionable strategies that any business can use to go after this opportunity head-on. So the playbook really comes down to 3 key steps. First, you've got to be compliance first. That means you plan for absolutely everything upfront, the tariffs, the regulations, even little things like Portuguese labeling. Step 2 is landed cost engineering. Basically, you have to price your product based on the final cost to the buyer after all the taxes and shipping, not just what it costs to make it. And third, professionalize your channels. You can't go it alone. You need to partner with established importers and buyers who already know the market inside and out. And the good news is, you don't have to figure out this maze by yourself. There are organizations like the BBCCI, the Brazil-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce, that exist specifically for this. They're like a market entry accelerator. They connect businesses with buyers they've already vetted, they run trade missions, and they help with all the complex paperwork to make sure you don't have costly delays at the port. So it all boils down to the right mindset. For exporters in Bangladesh, Brazil is a professionalization market. It forces you to be disciplined, consistent, and to have really high standards. And for Brazilian exporters, Bangladesh is a corridor market, where the biggest wins come from shipping huge volumes of commodities efficiently and reliably. Success actually requires two very different but totally complementary strategies. When you add it all up, you're looking at a nearly $3 billion relationship that has the potential to be so much bigger. The map is there, the playbook is written, this is just the beginning. The only real question left is, who's going to seize this opportunity first?